basics and nervous system. And they are going to overlap consistently. So we're going to go back and forth from them. And then eventually you'll figure out how they work together. Breath work is the use of breath awareness and conscious breathing for healing and growth, personal awakening, and transformation in spirit, mind, and body. Breath is the foundation of everything. Everything comes back to breath. Breath is mobility work. Breath is strength training. Breath is core work. Breath is nervous system repair. Breath is structural repair. Breath is spiritual connection. Breath is life. You're not breathing, you're not alive. So I want you to think about when teaching breath, and I said this earlier to Christina, when teaching breath, we are not teaching lungs to get bigger, because that is a natural, the lungs are the container of the air, okay? That's like breathing into a balloon and wondering why the balloon got full. It's because the balloon is the container where we're breathing into. Breath, lungs are the container of your breath. When you take a breath, which is triggered by carbon dioxide in your body, triggers the need to take in oxygen, right? Those two go together. Sorry, Christina's face just looked like, what? Okay.
I was working on my breathing. Is that not obvious?
I'm breathing!
I was trying to do what we were doing. I'm like thinking I'm over.
That's your good. You're good. Alright, so when we breathe, oxygen comes in through our nasal passages, mouth, comes down our esophagus, goes into our brachii, into smaller, the brachii breaks into, so when you think about tree trunks, it breaks into smaller
Bronchi go into bronchioles.
Bronchi go into
Bronchioles.
Thank you.
And then
And then there's these little small sacs of air, alveoli, that take the oxygen to the muscles. They move through the bloodstream to the muscles. And then there is transfer, oxygen, carbon dioxide, transfer, and then they bring it back and they exhale the same way. So there's movement. There's over like 300 million alveoli in your body. There's lots. So this is like constantly happening, right? Constantly moving. So you're sending that in through our body. When we teach breath, we don't need to teach that to everybody. Like there's a lot of things that come with it, but I want you to just know how it comes into your body. When we are teaching breath, we're not teaching getting lungs bigger. What we are teaching is how the breath moves the structure, how the breath moves the muscles, works with the muscles to move the structure. So if this is our rib cage and it's stiff and rigid and we don't know how to move the structure, then when we take an inhale and breathe, that's as far as it goes. And if that's as far as it goes, and we wonder why we can't connect with our diaphragm, and that's as far as it goes because it doesn't have space to come fully down, then we wonder why our heart is stiff and rigid, and it has resounding effects through the body. So when we teach breathing, our ultimate goal is to get structure to move. Not just one place, like belly, but the whole thing. So I want to go over when you take a breath. When you take a breath and it comes in, the lungs expand. When the lungs expand, they press into the heart, because the heart, this is the diaphragm, it sits right here. The heart sits on the left side of our body. Right here. Inside. So when the lungs expand, they press in on that heart. So the heart gets squeezed and the heart rate increases. When you exhale, that expansion is released and the heart rate relaxes. So this is why it's important to understand when I'm doing breath work in a class and I'm moving into Shavasana and I want people to relax, I'm not gonna get them to focus on their inhale. Because that's gonna get, inhale is sympathetic, exhale is parasympathetic. So trying to get people to engage with that exhale and lengthen it. When somebody is finishing a workout, a run, a cardio thing, a hard balancing pose, and their heart rate is high, I'm gonna get them to lengthen their exhale to bring the heart rate back down. Well, let's go over, before we actually go over the movements, I want to kind of talk about, I don't expect you to remember all of these muscles, but I want to go over some of the muscles that are primary breathing muscles. You're going to be a little shocked that it's not just one, right? We have the diaphragm, which sits inside of our rib cage, right, inside of here, that as we breathe, it comes down, it concentrically contracts, presses rib cage out. Then you have your external intercostals. Your intercostal muscles are these muscles in between here. Your external, there's internal and external. Your externals lift the rib cage. Your internals pull the rib cage down. So remember, muscles pull. So if we don't have something that contracts that, then we're just gonna be here all the time, right? Then you have your sternocleidomastoid muscles, your SCM muscles. This guy, not doing very well. You have muscles of the neck that attach here and to here, to our jaw, all the way, so these guys right here, they lift the collarbone. They help your pec muscles come across here. Pecs lift the sternum. You have your serratus muscles that come wrap around here. They're my real sexy muscles on my husband when I love so much. They're the ones that wrap around here and they pull back here. You find them most when you reach back. Then you have your lat muscles that attach at the top of your humerus, come underneath and pull toward the back. You have your QL, your quadratus lumboris. We're just gonna get that one right, QL. We're just gonna call it QL. QL muscles are inside of this crest to the low ribs that pull down, that engage with back. That's where we get back expansion. Make sure I did this here. And you have pelvic floor. There are 16 muscles in your pelvic floor. They all fit inside of the pelvis. Right? We're gonna, the iliacus is it's a hip muscle, it's a hip flexor, still part of your pelvic floor. That's why hip pain is related to pelvic floor pain. It's all connected. Primary exhalation muscles. Internal intercostals, these are the muscles that think about pulling the body inward to expel air. Intercostal muscles, again, pull the rib cage down. Your transverse abdominis is your deepest core muscle. Rectus abdominis, it is six-pack abs. Transverse abdominis is inside and it corsets around you. It is not attached to any other bones except for the spine, and it wraps around you. So it is only worked by using your breath. So if you don't have a deep 360 breath, that muscle is going to be really weak. And your lat also helps expel air, and your pelvic floor works in conjunction. So when you breathe, make sure it's over here, make sure. So when we breathe, as an inhale, diaphragm, breath comes in, inhale, diaphragm comes down, pelvic, this is a concentric contraction, it shortens. Your pelvic floor is an eccentric, it lengthens, right? So as everything comes in, when the diaphragm comes down, it presses all of your internal organs down. Like they have to go somewhere. So they go into the pelvis. Pelvis shifts, it fluctuates with your breath. There should be movement in there. So if we're stiff and rigid in our back, and there's not movement, there's a lot of bearing down that happens. So we inhale, everything comes down. Pelvic floor comes down. There's expansion, 360, all the way around. Bones lift, and as you exhale, heart rate comes back down. There is contraction, there is tension, there is internal pressure in your body. That's why a lot of times when we think about squatting, there's a exhale. Anytime we're looking for more stability, we tend to do that on the exhale. In traditional yoga, when you do a sun salutation, there is a lot of this. So inhale, reach up. Let me take my shirt off. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, come up. Exhale, come back. Inhale, come up. Right? Which is not wrong. It's movement. It's not wrong. But if I'm having somebody who has a hard time with core control, then I need, what would happen if I reversed it? If I exhale, take an inhale at the bottom, exhale, less of a back bend, more control here. Inhale, let go. Exhale, step back. Take a breath here. Exhale, come forward. Inhale, go back. And then exhale, come forward. So you can play with the breath. If I'm working on somebody and they can't get, everything they do goes into a back bend, I'm going to get them to focus on that exhale. Because exhale brings everything inward, it creates tension, it creates stability, it creates control. Every time I do prenatal, postpartum, breath work, like that's one of the biggest things with women, men in general across the board, is finding exhale for stability and then finding inhale usually back here. I was actually doing it with my husband this morning. He was in child's pose. My husband is incredibly arched here. So this is about as far as he goes. There's a significant amount of tight muscles that lift him up and torque his pelvis. So he can't breathe into these muscles. So trying to get movement here is his goal. So that's what we can do with breath, is we can help people stretch from the inside to find ways to find stability so that when they're moving through life, they don't even have to think about it. I don't have to think about if I know the principles of how to find tension with my breath, with my inhale, with my exhale, I don't have to think about whether or not I'm breathing with the inhale, with the down, or the exhale, I just naturally happens. And the more skilled and disciplined you get in here, practicing that, the better you get in the real world. And you're like, I can breathe. And changing the way we breathe, we'll go to that when we go into the nervous system. So changing the way you breathe affects your nervous system. It affects how you breathe, where it moves. Typically, so if you're, wherever you are, you're sitting, you can be laying if you're laying. I want you to drop your chin to your chest. I want you to look down to your belly button. And I want you to take a deep breath. Good, and then I want you to come back and I want you to lift up. And I want you to take a deep breath. And then I want you to stack your thorax, your rib cage above your pelvis. Relax your shoulders and take a deep breath. Which one feels best? Which one can you find the most movement? Which one feels less constricted? Nice and tall, yeah. So when you have people that come here and aren't engaging, there's usually something going on. Whether it's emotional, because lats aren't turned on. Lats are muscles of confidence. So somebody that's really had rough, tired, worn out. This is my tired mom look. And shoulders forward, butts tucked under. So teaching them how to use their breath to open up through the pecs, to lift up through here without doing this. Because that's where I want to make the modification. That's where I want to get it from. Can I breathe here and can I lengthen? Tomorrow we're going to go through some actual breathing practices that I think will be helpful. But I want to move into your nervous system, because then we're going to bring it all together. Your nervous system is like your managers and your firefighters, all things. They only care about keeping you alive. That is all they care about. It's keeping you alive. And your nervous system has two parts. So your peripheral nervous system, you have your peripheral nervous system, and you have your autonomic nervous system. And we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has two parts. You have your parasympathetic nervous system, and you have your sympathetic nervous system. Both are important. Both are needed. Both are good. Neither one of them are bad. There's no bad parts. There's no bad movement, and there's no bad states. They're both very, very good, very, very helpful, and they keep you alive. So the nervous system, it has nerves, clearly, that run through every part of your body, touch every muscle, engage with every organ inside of your body. In your parasympathetic nervous system, you've probably heard of the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the largest nerve in your parasympathetic nervous system. It runs into all of your organs, your gut, your liver, your bladder, heart, all the things. It goes through your diaphragm. So when we breathe and massage that muscle, call it nerve flossing, it helps to strengthen awareness of that nerve. It helps us bring us into parasympathetic. But there's also breath work that we can do that triggers your sympathetic nervous system, because there are times in your life, lots of times in your life, where you need to be in sympathetic. I am in sympathetic right now. I'm in control, I'm in a state of flow. I'm not scared, I'm not threatened, feels good, but I'm in sympathetic. I'm ready, let's have conversation, let's do this, let's teach, let's move. You wake up in the morning, you're in sympathetic. get ready to go to bed, you're in parasympathetic. Unless you have anxiety, you're in sympathetic. Right? There's all back and forth and flow. I said this morning, with the nerves there's nerves that go through every part of our body in parasympathetic. There's nerves that go through our body that are in sympathetic. And they're all, it's a roadway, it's a freeway. All of these muscles are sending messages to the brain. And all of the brain is sending messages to the body. 80%, lots of messages. The brain is shuffling, controlling, and saying, nope, we're not going to think about that. All the way back down. The skill of interpreting these messages is called interoception. Interoception. The ability for your brain to interpret messages that come back. This comes back to the chakra system that we were talking about. If there has been impairment in our system, in our life, in our growth, if we were not allowed to feel emotion, then that interoception skill is going to be very cloudy. It's not going to do the best job. So part of yoga is teaching people how to feel through movement, through breath, how to repair and trust the body. Can I move in this without being afraid? Because what happens when you have somebody with low back pain and you get them to go into Warrior 3, Malasana, chair, any of the ones that we just did, they're going to move into this. They're going to move immediately into sympathetic. Immediately. And you can't do anything with them. You can't tell them that they're safe. You can't get them to relax their muscles until they believe that they are safe. And that comes back to interpreting these messages and reminding ourselves, okay, how do I know that I'm safe? Well, it starts from this internal sense of like, can I feel my breath? State of your nervous system will change your breath. When you're afraid, when you got mad, breath changed, right? When you're tired, when you feel safe this morning, breath changed. The great thing about it is that, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about being afraid and responding. Like your nervous system, it is automatic, autonomic nervous system. Automatic. It's made to keep you alive. But the more we develop the skill of interoception and self-awareness, the more we can say, oh, okay, I feel that. I'm just nervous. I can breathe. I can take deeper breaths. I can calm my own self. I'm just uncomfortable. I feel all the signs. I'm sweating. My breath is tightening. My hands are clammy. What is that? That's nervousness. You know what feels the exact same in your body? Anxiety, excitement, and hope. All of those feel the exact same in your body. And if we have lived a hopeless life, if we have lived in fear and sympathetic, then all of it feels like anxiety. And that's the only emotion we know. Because it takes a lot of courage to live in hope and joy. Because sometimes it's easier to live in sympathetic. Because that's called flight. We're talking about what happens in flight. A lot of times we try to self-regulate before we develop the skill of interoception. So we try to tell our body what it should feel, how it should behave, what it should do, without ever listening and receiving information. You're like, you shouldn't be feeling that. Well, you do. Hello, somatic error. So we come to, I feel this, I'm not believing this, and so there is error. And so these messages get distorted and screwed up and confused because they're trying really hard to send to your body that I am angry and I'm scared and I'm frustrated and I'm afraid. And headquarters, heart, body is not letting them come through. So then the body starts to revolt. This is where we get autoimmune disorders. This is where we get anxiety and depression and unexpressed anger. It turns inward because it is held somewhere. Your body remembers everything. Everything that happened to you. Every trauma that you had as a child, your body was there and it remembers it. Whether your head allows you to remember it, your body does. So you will get into situations, you will walk into places that you're like, oh my God, like something just happened to me and I don't know what it is. You'll have a conversation with somebody and you have no idea why you were angry at them. It is your nervous system saying, we've been here before and we got hurt. We got hurt and I don't want to let anybody into this again. So it is a self-protection mode. So I want to go over the states of your nervous system. And I think it's next weekend. There are muscles that are associated with states. So there's muscles that are more engaged in sympathetic and there's muscles that are more engaged in parasympathetic. And knowing those can be very helpful when you're trying to teach somebody how to connect with their heart. Parasympathetic, sympathetic. Let's go into sympathetic first. Sympathetic is fight. It is fight. Sympathetic is your brake or your gas pedal. It says it's time to wake up, it's time to move, it's time to move into a fight, it's time to move into action. It alerts you of danger, and it is spending energy. It is very attentive. It is respond, do, go, behave, work. Parasympathetic is freeze. It's also flow, which we don't talk about a lot. It is your brake pedal. It is when you feel safe. It is when you feel alert and introspective. It is empathetic, and it tends to be energy conservation. So looking from fight is, there's toxic forms of every one of these places. But remember, no state is bad and no state is wrong. So
What is flow?
we're gonna talk about it.
Oh, okay.
So fight is anger. It is rage. It is boldness. It is frustration. It is wanting to be here. It's aggression, it's presence. I'm here, I showed up, I'm here. It's fully present. But it is also your firefighters. F you for getting in my face. F you for pushing me. Like, get out of me. Like, that is fight. There is times in your life where you will need to fight for yourself, and we're going to show you how to do that. There is times when you need to have a voice and says, that is wrong. What happened to me was wrong. What you're saying is wrong. How you're speaking to me is not fair and not right, and I won't stand for that. Fight is truth. It's justice. It's also out of control rage. It's hurtful. It's your firefighters. It's wanting to keep you from getting hurt at all cost. And it can be the most damaging thing in your relationships and in your life. And it can also be the most beautiful expression and courageous, most confident that you will ever be in. Fight is panic, worry, anxiety, concern, losing, not wanting to be here. There are times you get into situations you do not need to be in there. You can feel it in your gut. The energy in your body shifts. And that is your body, that is your nervous system saying, you need to leave. It is not safe here. That is when you get into a position with weight and you're like, I'm not safe. This is your body telling you. Sometimes that gets really confused because there's a lot of times that we're fighting out of pain because we don't know how to fight. So if I tell you to get into a position and hold it, and we're gonna hold it, and hold it, and hold it, there's gonna be a point where you're either gonna fight and you're gonna probably lose, and eventually that will push you into here, or you're gonna say, I'm out. Stop pushing, I'm done. That is the option to, if I questioned you in those drills and you didn't like it, you left. Or you checked out emotionally. I can be in a conversation and I'm totally not here. That is fight. That's being in an argument with somebody and feeling like you're losing and you're panicking and you just mentally shut off. I'm done. Walk away. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm sleeping. This is soccer mom. Gotta wake up. I gotta do this. I gotta be there. I gotta go. I don't know how to be still. I don't like yoga because I don't like to be still. I don't want to be with myself and my feelings. I don't want to feel emotion, so I live here. It is moving away. Fight is moving toward. It's moving in. Freeze is when we play dead. Freeze is depression. It is surrender. It is also quitting. It's too hard. Can't do it.
Fight, is it quitting?
Fight?
Yeah.
Fight is avoidance. It's a way of quitting, but freeze is like, I'm done. I'm not, like, yes, fight is a way of, it is quitting, but it is also avoidance of even addressing it. Fight is, this is, I'm so busy and I'm gonna avoid it and I'm not gonna think about it. Fight is, like, I'm unmotivated.
I give up. Freeze.
Freeze, yeah, freeze, I'm sorry, freeze is, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to get into my bed and I'm gonna pull my head over the covers and I'm gonna pretend like nothing in the world exists.
Like giving up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. It is complete loss of identity. Freeze has very good sides. Freeze is rest. Freeze is the good side of depression. And yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of your nervous system's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, yes, there is one. Depression is your body's way of telling, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Like, body, brain, I can't handle anymore. Depression is most beautiful in grief. Because grief is so overwhelming and it's such a powerful emotion that it's hard to handle. It's too much. So depression tells your body, I need to go inward. I need to protect you because there's too much right now. It's a place of protection. And a place that we need. Problem is we get stuck here. We get stuck. And if you are stuck in any of these places, you're living in a state of survival. And that is where the majority of us live. We usually start from one of these places. Kind of comes back to our excellence over perfection, our perfectionist cycle. We're living life, everything is fine, it's fine. Then we get really angry, and we either move into rage, or we move into avoidance, and then we get so angry at ourselves that we shut down. We don't feel these emotions. We don't feel the emotional pain. We don't feel the grief. We don't feel the loneliness. We don't feel the sadness or the hurt. And we go back and forth from here, and then we freeze with our coping mechanisms. We stay here. And then we recover. And then we move into doing everything we can possibly do to not get to the root cause of what's going on. And then we get angry, frustrated, and we move right back here. That is a state of survival. And it is a sad, lonely, frustrating place to be. Again, there is another way to do this. But you will not move here until you learn how to move through this and fully into this. And you start expressing your emotion with righteous anger, fully present to all the things you feel, and you move in. And when you do this, you will find this. And flow is being present. Flow is being grounded, social, mindful, satisfied. Present. Yeah.
I thought this is where the flow was going to be, but it's not, which is why I'm asking a question. But fight, flight, freeze all make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the idea of fitting in also as a way of protecting your
fawn.
meaning. Yeah, the fawn.
Yeah, fine.
In that sense. I mean, is that? I don't know.
You're trying to protect yourself by making
Yeah.
that person who's hurting you happy.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
hurting you.
right. That's what I kind of was like going with the flow. I was like, so anyway, I was just wondering if that fits into here too, and any of that. In terms of like people pleasing, right?
Yeah.
Or like avoidant, or like I don't want to make this person
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
So just mimic
That's
what
gonna
they
be
say.
flight. That's gonna be avoidance of who I really am, what I really feel, what the do you like what? Do you like it's doing things you don't really want to do because you're going along to get along. That's flight. That's not honoring who you really are and what you really want. for so long, and then it's gonna make you resentful and bitter, internally anger, and that this fight might be happening internally, might never actually come out. It's happening internally. Again, when you learn how to be angry, when I did this with my dad, there's usually a lot of crying, there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of tears, there's a lot of throwing things around, because you have an expression of, this is not fair. This happened to me, and I'm angry, and I'm gonna feel angry, because it's a real emotion. And when you do that, you can move into like, yes, okay, that I allowed my body to feel, take any one of those 8 emotions that we went through. Any one of them. When you don't let yourself feel them, you're here, you're here, you're here. But when you move in to, I wanna do the work for me. I wanna be whole. I wanna get to why I'm so angry at my spouse every time he brings up his parents. What is the root cause of that? It's fear that his parents don't like me. It's fear that I don't belong. And I'm blaming him because I don't want to get to my emotion and my own fear. Because I'm not willing to touch it. But when I do, when I can, we can move into completely present conversation with each other. I can say, hey, I'm scared. I'm scared to let my son go spend 2 weeks with your parents because I'm scared that they're going to say things to him that aren't true about me. And I'm afraid, and that makes me feel vulnerable. And if I can tell him that, then we can have an honest conversation with each other. Instead of saying, it's fine, I can shut down, I'm gonna cover up, I'm gonna put a mask on. And when we learn how to, you are always going to have to move through fight. Whether it is fighting with your heart or somebody else. You've got to be willing to sit in the discomfort. And if you are not willing to sit in the discomfort, you will continue to move in the survival, because this is not fun. It is not fun to feel vulnerable. It is sympathetic to feel vulnerable. But vulnerability moves us into connection. And when we have that, we can actually experience joy. You will not be able to teach this until you experience it, until you're willing to go there. We're not going to do it today or this weekend, but we are going to give you an opportunity at some point to go there. So I want you to prepare your heart, and it's going, over the next few months, you're probably going to have some stuff, because your nervous system knows what this is like. Your nervous system is telling you, I don't want to show my heart. And those lies, my heart's ugly, it's gross, it's messy, those lies are going to get real loud. But I'm begging you to let yourself believe that there's another way of living. There is another way of moving through life than being in one of these places. And when you think about this from a place of breath, one of the things that is really cool about breathing, and why I told you how we breathe, is because those little messages that come through those nervous system roads and tracks and interstates are constantly sending messages, and in those little alveoli sacs, there are chemical and hormonal messages that are being carried to the muscles based on the type of breath you have, telling your body which state to be in. So breath work is not some hyper spiritual, it is doing something hormonally and chemically in your body and in your nervous system, and it is changing you from the inside out. And it starts with feeling your heart. It starts with moving your diaphragm, the seat and throne of your heart. And your diaphragm here always works with the pelvic floor. Do you know it sits on your pelvic floor?
Your bladder?
It does. You know what else sits on your pelvic floor? Your uterus. The thing that makes you woman. And when we can start connecting those two, our diaphragm and our pelvic floor, the seat of our femininity and the seat of our heart, and we start living in awareness of emotion and movement, we can find this, and we can find freedom. And not only that, we can offer it to the other women and men that come into our lives, into our relationships. You can teach your children, you can change your generations of things that have happened to you, but it will not happen if we're not willing to get really uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. So, that is all for tonight. Do you have any questions?